Yes, we are back. We should be okay now. I was recording my my check-in just now, and the memory had a huge fail. So it just hung up on me like that. Would you believe it? So I was in the middle of my story as to how we got to Luxembourg and all the rest of it, and I was being a bit lengthy and long-winded, more than usual. So maybe it's okay. Well, look at my lemon. Isn't that the biggest lemon you've ever seen? Look at that. He's massive. He's almost a kilogram, 970 something. So we got this guy from Italy. Doesn't even smell like lemon yet. So he's probably from Sicily and then to Italy to a supermarket where I picked him up. That's just a fun note right there. Picked up lots of other stuff during my holiday. Also, particularly non-material things, realizations and big aha, things going on. The other thing that happened was that my rose oracle got drowned. Yes, will you believe it? My originals, my cards here, they were in the wet for a while. That's not a good idea. So I'm pretty scared each time I take them out. Most of them are actually fine. Colors are still on. The images are fine. Most of them, of course, had varnish on them. So that doesn't last forever, like having the cards actually lying in water. They weren't lying in water. They were in their pouch. This is the little pouch thing that I use for the lot of them. And I'm going to put my mug away before I drown everything else. What we do have is a little bit of bending, like so. And these are, of course, 2 layers of cardboard and drawing paper stuck, glued together with wallpaper glue. And none of that is really water resistant. So it was a bit dramatic. But as I could tell the next day that everything was actually more or less okay shape-wise, that's Venice that we visited, card that I made actually before going there. Yes, we've been to Venice. I'll be telling you about my travels, what I've been doing. Most of this actually still looks just fine. There's a couple of cards that have the back side more or less came off like this. So, and all I need to do is do another layer of wallpaper glue in between and leave that to dry for a bit. It isn't a drama. It isn't really a problem. And all the older cards, the smaller ones that I showed you before, they're the same as they were. So I'm actually rather pleased again. Quality-wise, apparently what I make, it will last for a bit longer. So the other set, the set of the printed cards, I haven't even touched all of the 2.5 weeks that I was out of the house. And I have used during my holidays both my Sassurabito minis and my Kazandar tarot on and off almost, well, not every day, but every 2 or 3 days or so. We did a little tarot session. We did a little tarot session using the Sassurabito at the top of the Stelvio mountain pass, which is 2,700 and something meters high, in the fog with coffee and pie on my birthday. That was super excellent. It was a lot of fun. And of course, I don't remember the cards that I had because I did write them down in my little, pretty notebook that I've got with my Sassurabito, and it's around here somewhere. It's in my handbag over yonder. So never mind. They were good cards. They were okay. And it wasn't, there was a lot of wands activity as usual, I seem to recall. Anyway, our trip. The trip was basically leaving the 31st of July, ending up in Luxembourg, moving on towards to the south of the Vosges of the Alsace region in France, which if you imagine map of France like that, it's over there, a hill range, rather an old range of hills before you get to Switzerland. We stayed there for a while. We have stayed at that camping site, which is one of our favorites, several times in the past years. And it's been really nice every time coming back there because, you know, there's running water, it's forests, it's really beautiful. And there's a couple of other amenities in the near region, so you can do all sorts of walks. There's the video that I posted yesterday about the Jewish cemetery, that's right there also. So you have like two tiny villages and one slightly larger village out in, let's say, outside of the hills where it's getting to be a bit flatter. And those two tiny villages, one of them is where our camping site is at the back of, in the hill, in the forest, right, in the valley. And the other village has like, what is that called? Like a large church. I'm searching for the words here. It's all in French, of course, in my head. And it's like a power spot. There's lots of earth power there. I've always found that to be extremely comforting and pleasant to visit. And so to go to the church, and then there's if you stand at the church porch on the outside, right, and you look out the valley, it goes down in front of you a bit, not very steeply, towards that small village that I was mentioning just now. And there's a little type of a knob of a hill. It's too much to call it a hill, in the middle of the village, and the main street goes to the left of that knob, down slightly a bit more, and there's a pub right there that you can go have a coffee at or an ice cream. Excellent, nice place. And then it joins a slightly larger road going that way towards the larger village and the other towns out there. And the main road goes up that way also to another set of smaller villages, and there's lots of power spots there. There's a really cool, I suppose, a prehistoric monument that you should really call that. It doesn't have any cup marks or any markings of any kind. It is called the Pupelstein back there, which means the baby stone. And it's one of those rocks it's a very big flat rock with a flat side that lies on its side, on the side of the hill at a slope like so a bit, and people are still sliding down it. And the idea is that you slide down it and then you get pregnant as a female, which is not something that I'm really into. However, whenever I visit that place, we haven't done so this time, but whenever I visit that place, I can always feel a very strong sense of the earth's generosity. It's like a particular vibration of earth energy that is really, you could imagine that it stimulates the chemistry makeup that makes you go pregnant eventually at some point. You know, that doesn't surprise me at all. It's not so much that the energy comes into your body out of the earth necessarily, other than it's a very strong field and it's conducive to fertility too. So I believe it definitely works that way. Only for me, because I am not engaging in the activities that in the way that will actually make me pregnant, because I'm not going to at 53 years of age, thank you very much, for the first time. Help, no. No. I don't get pregnant as much as I can feel all this. It's a good feeling. It feels really generous and warm, and it's about life being affirmed in a way. So it feels really good for but I haven't been there this time. I've only visited the Jewish cemetery and the church this time, and we've been on the camping site, like I said, I think for 4 days. However, the reason why I'm kind of describing this region a bit more is that After 3 days or so, at first I got my period, which was normal. Then I got headaches, which wasn't really normal because if at all, I don't really get headaches that much since I've been doing all this Shakti energy work. For more intel on that, see the playlist if you want. But this time I really got a nasty sense of a headache. And basically what I felt like was we'd arrived there Thursday evening, and by Sunday I was getting a sense of having too many toxins in my blood, and that causes this type of headache. And we wanted badly to leave, so we ended up leaving Monday morning, slightly earlier than we'd planned, because the location on the camping site, you have to imagine this camping site as being alongside this little brook. There wasn't all that much water in the brook at the moment because high summer and high temperatures and just not that much rainfall. The camping site is actually a rather lengthy affair, like a village that you get sometimes in a valley like that. A lengthy development of sites alongside the river or the stream in this case, and the road that goes up the hill serves this camping site. It's not like a square camping site or a couple of bigger fields. It's a lengthy affair, one place after another. And we have stayed in the past years at the lower down camping site, I think 3 or 4 times even. The last times that we stayed there, it was always at the lower location with no problems, no headaches, no nothing. And this time we came back to the higher location, which is about, what will it be, 200 meters, 300 meters, something like that, off the top of my head, up the valley, right? And that location is a place that we stayed at with our tent the very first times, 3, 4 times, I don't know, way back in the day when we first visited this area and stayed at that camping site. So the whole thing started off for both of us, for me a bit earlier and for husband a bit later, because that's what tends to happen. To him it takes a day more, also to unwind from the office and everything else that's been happening. To me it comes home immediately, almost, oh my gosh, I'm in this place again, so I am going to be tripping down memory lane because of the old stuff and the old modes of it. This is a place that I used to write poetry at. I used to search so badly for peace and harmony that I couldn't find. Basically, that's the bottom line. I was always, up until I got involved in this whole soul retrieval thing, I was hopelessly, desperately searching for some type of peace and harmony in my life that I wasn't getting. Doing the things that have developed, with my job that I used to do back then, and the people and all the challenges that I've encountered have led me eventually to do this sort of by accident, do this soul retrieval, meditation, visualization, regression, I should call that, actually on YouTube. And then from there on out, it's taken me another 3 years, and I'm talking 2012 to 2015 here, to get more of a sense of contact with the part of myself that I'd encountered during the regression. And from then on out, making contact with that part and sort of starting to really interact with that emotional side of myself, everything has started to pan out more and more. And the Shakti work that I've been doing in the past year, the Shakti energy work, is just another part of that same story of me trying to get my act together. I hope the washing machine isn't too noisy in the background. It's just I have a lot of laundry to do after 3 weeks of hot and sweaty weather. So you just have to bear with. I'm sorry. In parentheses. What I noticed after the 3.5 days at staying at the camping site and me getting my headache, and I had sort of faced the personal issues, the issues about the memory lane, about how things used to be so different, how alone and miserable and cold I used to feel, which was normal. That was my normal, okay? How completely lacking in connection I really was, how it was tough to face that again and to be really in that same place with myself again. So it's like having a relationship with the past self, except it was in this life. And how I was always trying to cope, how I was always trying to, tread water basically and keep my nose over the water so I could survive. It was such a survival exercise. It was terrible. So that wasn't much fun, but I did do my bit. I'm messing around with my sage here because I think it'd be nice to have a tiny bit of sage smoking in the middle of all this. Not mugwort this time. This is just going to be a bit of sage. So I had done my bit, I thought, and I, there it is, just a bit of sage. There's I've got a big oyster shell that I use from the beach for my sage, especially. I'd done my bit, I thought, but I was still getting the headaches. And then on a sort of a parallel path, I realized, how about I've noticed all these earth forces at the church building, not so much at the Jewish cemetery or at the village right there. Possibly there are quite a ton of vibrations there as well that I am just not personally that sensitive to. I believe that it very much depends on who you are, what type of vibration you're going to inhale, imbibe and work with at some point. And also it differs through the years. I'm thinking that I got my headache because I was receiving like a very strong, very specific healing vibration from the site I was camping at, where we stayed like quite a number of days. Like I said, 4 days in total. Actually, it was Friday, so 3 whole days. I'm not even sure. 4 nights. That's probably what it was. The vibration from what you would get lying on a really big slab of powerful rock crystal. Something along those lines, maybe with some metals embedded in it. That would really, it was insane. What I get then is toxins, Healing always involves, even if you drink gallons of water and tea and have lots of exercise and walk around, because that's what we did, I still get a ton of toxins that I don't seem to get rid of. The only thing that works for me to get rid of toxins more than my body normally does is citrus, and specifically lemons, and especially grapefruits. Those are my best buddies in life. It's I gotta have me some grapefruit on and off once a week or so. So once we left, we were really relieved, which was really strange because we've always enjoyed that camping site and that area. All of that area is just so much fun to be at. It's really relaxed. It's comfortable to stay at. The people are nice. Nothing to worry about. So moving on, our plan was, since we did have a bit of more financial freedom this summer, to go to the Veneto, to go to Italy and see Venice again. And that involved, with our tent, traveling through Switzerland, of which I do have a couple of small videos. I will upload bits and things of videos that I made during the holiday. I suppose a couple of times, you know, I've got 3 little videos coming that are about the same location. I will probably upload them next Sunday or something like that, together, because they're about the same place. So you can look at those, and there's a bit of nature there in the middle of Switzerland, and in the mountains, really, at a mountain pass. So it's really pretty. It's got really pretty flowers and plants and things. So I thought that was really worth showing you guys. But that's what my plan is, to just upload the videos from the holiday, a few at a time, or you know, a bit consistently over a couple of weeks, so you can look at them whenever you feel like it. And I'm not gonna upload all this green stuff in one go and then go back to normal. What I want to do is go back to normal and then show you a bit of holiday bits, you know, in due course, something like that. So it'll take me a couple of weeks to upload everything that I've got. Basically what I've got mainly is about 6 or 7 really short little snippets of a minute or 2, and I've got 2 more long ones, I think. So that's what it will be like. And in the meantime, I can sort of get back to normal with you guys, and I'm just really not liking how this lighting is going here. Maybe stick a bit more like this, and then you get all black and white glare from the sun shining on the floor. I don't like it either. The lighting of the camera, I have to constantly wave my hand in order for you to get sort of a normal lighting. What is with that, you know? Maybe I don't know. So, where was I? Switzerland. Great fun. And we were very relieved to not be, you know, caught up in that place again with anymore, with this energy vibration that was just simply too much. It was a positive vibration. It has always been, and it still is a positive vibration. And you can still have too much of a good thing, apparently. So that's really weird, but it's true, right? So headache passing on, drinking a lot of water still, having to do a lot of driving, highway in Switzerland, very busy. Basically the north, what you get in Switzerland is, it looks like this, more or less. You get all the mountains at the bottom. The top half is really busy, and we had to pass through there in order to get to the east of Switzerland, where we had picked a camping site at, I believe, 1400 meters elevation. So that was a bit tough, all of a sudden, going from 400, I think, to 1400. Then your head goes, oh, what's going on here with the elevation? There's less oxygen and less air pressure and all that. And but it's still beautiful views and gorgeous. Great weather most of the time, a bit of rain here and there, but not such a problem. And we stayed there just one night, and the next day was another extensive trip. And I have found that I am growing a bit older, yes, and so is husband, and we get a bit more bored with continuous driving. So even though we had agreed beforehand already that we would, you know, take turns driving on for 1 hour max, possibly, and then after 2 episodes we would take a break and you know, have a drink somewhere, have a coffee, or have an apple or something like that, something sensible for at least 10 minutes or so. That worked. We did that, and that worked really well. So we took our turns driving. We didn't drive more than, say, 1 hour and a quarter or so per person each time, I think, at all during the holiday. So that was really good. We stuck to that. We had agreed on that, and we stuck to it, and it worked much better than it would otherwise. You get this like computer head from just completely doing the same thing the whole time. So I think it's mainly because we, at the age we're at now, we're much more used to determining our own environment, our space, our activities all the time. and just being on the highway for hours on end with nothing but the same type of traffic, it's just very, you get kind of, I don't know, it's kind of autistic, like in a way, in a tunnel vision type way. I mean it fairly literally. It just becomes very small and very scrunched up like that. So that's not so comfortable. However, that's the only thing I've got to really complain about, that the drives were really lengthy. We've got maps and we've got Google Earth and Google Maps and all the rest of it, so all that functioned really beautifully, and we had no trouble at all finding our last camping site in the Veneto, that is underneath the Dolomite Mountains, at the edge of those. And you have to imagine this big shield of mountains at the bottom of Switzerland that continues on towards the east, through Austria and into what used to be Yugoslavia, and it's like Croatia nowadays. It's basically that region. And towards the south it flattens out and it becomes this river plain again, a set of river plains in the northeast of Italy. And where we stayed, it is in there's a set of two little lakes down, I believe it is also like 400 meters elevation, maybe 300, at the it's not quite in the plain yet, it's in between the hills before you get to the plain. And it's fairly quiet site. There's a number of villages around the lakes and in the hills, and the hills behind the camping site, the hill goes up like that, up to 1,000 meters, straight in one line, like that. Boom. So, and the other side behind you get the lake, and then there's hills about 500 meters max or something like that. So it's just like this end, the mountains end right there, boom, like so. And then you get a couple more humps, and then it's all flat. And what with the lakes and all, I had a gazillion mosquitoes. I have been eaten alive and sucked dry by mosquitoes for 7 days or so. But I didn't worry about it. I did have some rescue cream, and I did have some. It was the temperature was good. It was 30 or so degrees. It was fairly warm, and we spent a lot of time just hanging around, basically chatting, reading, playing with cards, doing nothing much really, and having, going to town, having a coffee, visiting the market, and silly things, and not what we used to do, always driving, always going over every mountain, over every hill. I got to see this mountain pass, I got to see that mountain pass, I got to see them all and do them all. And no, not anymore. We enjoyed every second. It was great fun. We were both feeling really good, I think, apart from the mosquito bites and, all that. Basically, it was just trying to find the supermarkets. The girl from the camping site, I'm calling her a girl, but she's my age, I think. She's getting grayer too. She remembered us from the last time we visited about 15 years ago or so. So there was another bit of memory lane right there. For me, it was unproblematic because I'd already dealt with most of the travails from the earlier years at the other side, and so I was kind of done with that. For husband, it was a bit tougher getting. He's been going through his things as well, getting like revisiting a place that you haven't been at for 15 years. It is really like meeting your old self again. And in this particular case, for both of us, that was tough. It was just a very tough job, and we each have to deal with these things in our own way. We have grown immensely. Both of our lives have grown and expanded beyond belief for both of us, and some of those processes and patterns are really very similar between us. We both had to deal with emotions that we didn't know how to deal with before, or we simply didn't have the bandwidth, I don't know what else to call that, to, live up to the challenges that were in our lives. And now things are very different. So what else did we do? We visited Venice, like I think I said already, one time. We were originally going to go back another time, but it was still fairly hot. The weather was hot, and what you have to do then, what's really practical, is to, in order to visit Venice, you have two options really, is to go by car, and then you have to park your car in a big parking garage thing, building, flat. But you have to leave your keys in, which is something that we don't like to do, and leave it open. Because just in case, it's their emergency procedure for them. In case there's an acqua alta, the water rises in the town suddenly, they have to get the cars out. So that's one reason why we don't like to leave our car in there, because everybody can just pinch everything. On top of the fact that most of our luggage tends to stay in the car because you can't stick it in the tent. The tent's just too small for that. The tent's okay to live in and to stay in for 2.5 weeks, more or less. We're thinking about getting a bigger tent for the next year, for the next set of trips, because we're not so young anymore. Jeetje. It's crawling around on all fours, and what with zippers on sleeping bags, and you're not having any space, and it's just not so easy to get that carcass to do what you want anymore. It's terrible. Shakti or no Shakti, I'm still over 50. There you go. Venice, the other option, take the train from, there's a couple of bigger towns spread around in that river valley right there, in the, not a valley, in the plain just. And from where the closest place to where we were staying is about 10-minute drive from the tent to that place, to the railway station, and you can pick up a ticket, and it costs 27 euros, I think, for 2 return tickets. Was it? It may have been 30, not much more than that. And 2 return tickets, adults, from Vittorio Veneto all the way to Venezia Santa Lucia, which is the train station to the old city of Venice itself. So this is a bit of my highlight. In retrospect, certainly it is my highlight of my holiday. It is what I wanted to come back to, wanted to visit. Most of all, this holiday in this way is more expensive than the one we had last year, where we went to the Bretagne, to Brittany in France, and traveled around there and stayed in several places, etc. Switzerland is expensive. There's the what should we call that? You have to buy a sticker for the highways in Switzerland. That's 40-ish euros, 45, something like that. So there's quite a number of expenses like that that come on top of a normal French holiday trip for us for 2 weeks or a bit more. Doing the Veneto, Italy isn't expensive as to having coffees and doing regular shopping, but it's always tempting to go and do all the things. And it depends also a lot on the prices for the camping sites that we've been to. So, and then there's fuel for the car and all the rest of it. Actually, all in all, I think we did really well. What has been said doing his books yesterday was that we actually we did properly according to the monitoring that he does for the expenses, so that you just don't go completely crazy in one way or another. That's just a side note as to how we do these things. We tend to keep a tight, close eye on expenses, because we live in an expensive house. Basically, this house that we live in is eating up quite a bit of our income, and So you have to save in other places, right? So in the old days, the holidays used to be the most important part of our lives, and that's one of the things that I found so confrontational. Revisiting those old locations, is that, and this is another basically non-physical, really important part of my process in the past couple of weeks, has been to realize that always, always, when I went on holidays, when we, my husband and I, used to go away for trips, it was for one reason only, and that reason was to get away from the expectations of other people, of us. And that I have been flung into the awareness of how little I really perceived of my surroundings, so long as, thank God, I wasn't in the vicinity of the people that I couldn't deal with. That was bitter, that was hard, and it hurt quite a bit. And I've been wrestling, I have been wrestling with that for some days during my vacation. And my husband deals with more or less the same things in his own way. He struggles with himself more than I do. I have accepted the fact that this is how things have been. I have also seen that what with my soul retrieval experiences and what with the sort of upbringing that I had, basically with my parents divorcing and moving house a trillion times, and my mother not really being capable to, provide things that I needed, and all the rest of it, I look at it like everything I get nowadays, everything I manage to get done expansion wise, is a huge plus. Everything I do, everything I enjoy, everything I feel grateful for is just a huge bonus. Everything is a bonus. Everything of life, this here, this moment, this minute right here is bonus. So it's just that it's painful looking back on how teeny tiny small I was, how desperate for things that I didn't know even the name of. There was hardly ever any friendship. So yes, I was watching Lisa and Peggy's chat on closure on old relationships, and I was feeling like, well, of course I also had a couple of friends that I ended up not speaking to anymore, after a couple of years. And some of those phases have been similar to what other people have described in the chat and what have you. There have been slight moments where, I've also got a couple of friends that I used to know for a period of time, and then it's gone, and the contact is gone. I did things that they didn't expect me to do, or what have you. There's a couple. But to me, the relationship with myself has changed so immensely that it sort of overwhelms all that. And what I'm also seeing from there on out is that the relationship that I thought I had back then with the surroundings that I longed to be in, like back in France where I used to live as a kid, etc., I realized in the early part of the holiday that it was all based on nostalgia. My old attitudes were nostalgic. And then in the latter part of the vacation, I realized that not only that, I wasn't involved with my surroundings like I am now. I wasn't engaging with anything back in the day, because all I was really doing was getting away from the expectation harness that was stringing me up like that. Or that's the way I felt it. My life didn't necessarily perhaps have to be like that. If I had had my soul retrieval experience and the subsequent, thank you, looking for the word here, developments with emotional processing, pain processing, that I've had. If I'd had the whole kit of things when I was 16 years old, with a bit of help preferably, rather than starting when I was 48, then of course everything would have been different. But nowadays, all I can do is look back and see myself as I was feeling the things the way they were. I was just so underdeveloped in many ways. I was such a terrible victim of, and victim mentality is one thing. I mean, anybody can have that. I suppose I still got that to quite a bit of an extent. But if you just do not have the bandwidth, the emotional tools, the inner sense of your own heart, and it's simply not there, it's, there's no resonance, there's no warmth, there's no real interaction, there's no real identity. All that I sort of drew out of that soul retrieval experience back, which is now it started off, it's 2019 now, so it's almost 4 years that I've actually worked with my own personal toolkit as to heart, brains, guts, intuition. I suppose I'm finding more and more the things that I really care about. So now, for revisiting those mountains, of course, it's all about how much I love it. And the Dolomite Mountains are fantastic, and Venice is beautiful. One of the things that I've been doing in the past years, which is just one strand of the exercises that I've been sharing with you guys, is family tree research. And so there's quite a bit of Jewish history on my dad's side, not on my mum's side, but only on my dad's, and specifically on his father's side. So my grandfather from my dad's side, right? Those were Jews, and there was quite a bit of, there's an Auschwitz video that I've put in the channel somewhere in the early spring this year, if you're interested in that. I think I called it Auschwitz Revisited. Anyway, the one thing that I wanted to do on top of everything else that I wanted to see in Venice, again, it was also seeing the ghetto that I hadn't visited before. And I've got this really old-fashioned cardboard map of the city. I should show it to you, but it's on the other side in my handbag still, because it's hanging around for a bit. Venice is like a couple of islands really stuck really tight together with canals in between, and it's quite big, and there's quite a bit of mileage. You have to have good legs and good shoes if you want to visit Venice, because so the ghetto is really on the north side, and it felt really special to be walking around there. It isn't really, there's a couple of Jewish bakeries with extra special treats and buns and things that look different from the other type of confectionery that you get in Italian, in mainstream. I don't know what you call those things, different, this way and that way, okay? Like buns and sugary poppy seed type buns and things that look a bit different. We haven't tried any of those because it was time, I think, to get lunch at that time, and so we just passed them by, and I just had a look here and there at things that were on offer. Otherwise, I felt like what it strikes me each time about the Jewish ancestry bit is that I have not grown up. My father and my grandfather, I don't think, grew up with any Jewish orthodoxy, religious orthodoxy at all. So where Jewish culture tends to be visible nowadays as a lot of book learning and a certain approach to mysticism and a couple of other, things you could describe in a similar way. Relationships between men and women, relationship to food, all that is sort of centered around an approach that's really quite orthodox. That's what's most striking, at least that's the way I see it. And that doesn't resonate with me at all. I have a sort of a very distant memory, a sort of a racial or a genetic memory of a Jewish background that is all about sharing life and problems together and surviving, basically. And of course, the war and the fact that Auschwitz happened cut short a great deal of the contact that I otherwise might have had with family members that I've never seen in my life. So there's a lot in there that I will never be able to make more specific. That's basically what's happening to me. However, walking around the Jewish ghetto and sort of touching the walls and things, there's a resonance and it's pleasant. So that's basically what I can tell you about that. It's just that it's there, it feels good, it feels, I don't know what it means to say it feels like home. It feels familiar to some extent. But then again, we moved from there, we walked to the church that I basically wanted to visit most of all because it has paintings by Titian, my favorite Renaissance painter, one of which was in restoration, so you couldn't see it. You only had there was a drape in front of it, and with a photograph of the painting, and I could see it's a huge church and it's got lots of monuments and it's beautiful and insane. It's got so much Baroque convolutedness going on, you have no idea. There's all sorts of crazy things to see there. But there's another painting by Titian that I did get to see, and I burst into tears immediately because he's got this fantastic naturalism that nobody else has. It's just crazy. So that worked just fine. It was a bit of a shame for the other painting because I really wanted to see it, but it's not supposed to be, so we'll get back there in a couple of years, do the same thing all over again. And then, I will get to see that single painting again. I am seeing now that I'm 47 minutes in. I want to make it under 50 if possible. I think I've said most of the most important things that I really had to say at this point, really. We went to Titian's birth village as well, his birth house. There was an interesting energy experience there as well, which I will relate in a separate video, I think, because that'll be more fun for me anyway. I am going to say now that we went back over Switzerland, there's a couple more little bits of prehistoric site that we visited that I will upload at some point soon. And our trip back was generally okay, other than there was a full moon, which had rather an impact on my surroundings, and it sort of chased me out of the north of France very quickly, and I was really very glad to be home again also after that, and we got home Saturday evening and today's Monday, like I said. So having said all that, the first night in my own house was weird and freaky also, because I didn't, emotionally inside my guts, I didn't recognize my own house. I have no clue. I was dreaming about all sorts of houses, and I was not panicking, but I was freaked out. It was freaky. I was all over the place, and I suppose I was really tired also. So yesterday we didn't do much, and we just hung around and brought back the rental car and had a coffee in town, and then poodled back with the bus to our house and had a bath and that type of thing. So because you have to unwind from, even though vacation is essential to shift gears in the mind in all sorts of ways, there's other ways where you just really have to sort of settle back in again. And I'm really looking forward to autumn and to doing cards here with you guys, and just generally, you know, getting stories going and describing things again and listening to what you have to say. Thank you so much. If you tagged along all this time, well done you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will be back here very soon. Bye bye for now.